Welcome to OOTO TV, the out of the office investigation from our past into the future of personal health and psychophysiological actualization. This time we're discussing frequency-specific microcurrent therapy, healing through frequency-specific microcurrent health therapy. We're going to get into a really fascinating and honestly a potentially revolutionary idea today. What if we could literally heal our bodies with electricity? It sounds like science fiction, but the therapy we're looking at promises to do just that. Okay, Pastor, let's just jump right in. I want you and everyone listening to imagine for a second that our bodies are like this incredibly complex, finely tuned orchestra. You've got every cell, every tissue, every single organ playing its own unique note, right? Its own vibrational frequency. And when we're healthy, it's a perfect symphony. But what happens when we're stressed, are sick, or in pain? Well, it's like some of those instruments are just out of tune. They're creating this jarring, dissonant sound. Now, here's the big idea. What if we could tune our bodies back to health using specific, targeted electrical frequencies? That is the absolutely electrifying promise behind this concept of biological resonance. It's this idea that we can use these tiny microcurrents to literally speak the language of our cells and guide them back into harmony. I know it sounds radical, Pastor, but it's getting some very serious scientific attention. You know, Bouchamp, that is a captivating metaphor. The body is an orchestra, I'll give you that. It paints a powerful picture. But as you know, here on OOTO TV, beautiful ideas have to be backed up by hard, cold evidence. A revolutionary concept like biological resonance, well, it demands the most rigorous scientific proof you can get. And that's exactly what we're here to investigate today. We're going to look at a pilot, randomized, controlled trial that puts this very idea to the test. So we'll start with the theory, the body is an orchestra. Then we'll look at the very real problem it's trying to solve, the burden of modern stress. We'll examine how they designed the trial, decode the really surprising results, and then talk about this idea of speed versus staying power. And finally, we'll look at what this all means for the future of bioelectric health. This is really where the music meets the science. Exactly. You can't appreciate the beautiful music of the results if you don't understand the instruments and the score first. So let's kick things off with the foundational theory behind frequency-specific microcurrent therapy, or FSM. What is actually going on here at a fundamental level? This is where it gets really cool, The core idea here is that FSM therapy suggests our bodies are electric, and each organ and muscle has a frequency that may be modulated for good for health. I mean, think about it. Every single thing we do, from a neuron firing in our brain to a muscle contracting, is all driven by electrical signals. So FSM proposes that each type of tissue has its own unique, healthy frequency. But when we get injured or when stress and inflammation take over, that frequency gets all messed up. So as the research from Pereira's team points out, this therapy uses these incredibly small, low-intensity currents. We're talking microamperes. That's millionths of an amp. You often can't even feel it. And it pairs them with specific frequencies to essentially remind the cells how to behave properly. It's not about shocking the system. It's about providing this precise, gentle signal to restore normal function. It's like giving that out-of-tune violinist in the orchestra the perfect A note to tune to. And that is the central claim, Bouchamp. It's a very elegant one. But for any therapy to be truly meaningful, it has to address a real-world problem. And in the 21st century, let's be honest, few problems are as pervasive and as debilitating as the overwhelming burden of modern stress. This isn't just a vague feeling of being busy. It's a real physiological state with severe consequences. And it's the exact problem this FSM study was designed to tackle. And the scale of this problem is, well, it's staggering. The research we're looking at was conducted right in the middle of a global crisis that was like throwing gasoline on the fire of mental health challenges. This number, 34%, that's more than a third of people in a major study reporting anxiety symptoms. And we're not just talking about a feeling of worry. This widespread emotional distress leads directly to what the study calls somatic symptoms. That's the clinical way of saying very real, very physical problems. Chronic pain that just won't go away, a level of fatigue that makes it hard to even get out of bed, muscle weakness, headaches, all of it stemming from this state of mental and emotional overload. It's the body literally screaming for help. And this is so important because it shows that stress is not just in your head. It's a concrete biological process. When we're exposed to chronic stressors, work deadlines, social isolation, health worries, it kicks our body's central stress response system, the HPA axis, into complete overdrive. You can think of the HPA axis as our body's emergency alarm. It's designed for short-term threats, like running from a tiger. But in our modern world, that alarm is just constantly blaring. And this hyperactivity leads to a constant flood of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, this chemical bath has a corrosive effect on our bodies, leading directly to those very real somatic symptoms we just talked about. It's this vicious cycle where emotional distress becomes very real physical pain and fatigue.
Precisely. So the crucial question for these researchers became, can FSM therapy actually interrupt this destructive cycle? Can it finally silence that alarm? To find out, they didn't just do some anecdotal tests. No, they designed a robust head-to-head clinical trial, what we consider the gold standard in medical research, to see if FSM could outperform not only a placebo, but also another well-established therapy. This is where the rubber really meets the road. Okay, this is where the scientific rigor really shines. They used a randomized controlled trial, or RCT design. They took 58 participants, all with clinically significant stress levels, and randomly assigned them to one of 4 different groups. And that randomization is so critical because it prevents any bias from creeping in. As you can see from this table, the groups were really cleverly designed to isolate the specific effects of what they were testing. You had a group that got only FSM, another that started with FSM and then switched to relaxation, a group that only did relaxation, and a really fascinating placebo group. Let's just walk through this for a second, because the design is absolutely key to understanding the results. The first group, EG1, got 12 straight sessions of FSM. Simple enough. Group EG2 got 6 sessions of FSM and then 6 sessions of relaxation therapy. Then you have the active control group, ACG, which got 12 sessions of just relaxation. This lets you do a direct comparison, FSM versus relaxation. But in my opinion, the most important one is the PCG, the placebo control group. For the first 6 sessions, they held the electrodes, the machine was on and everything, but no actual microcurrent was delivered, a true placebo. Then they also got relaxation. This kind of design lets you separate the true effect of the microcurrent from the psychological effect of just getting a new treatment. It's a really, really well thought out structure. You're listening to OTO, OTTV with research by author Paul Bulow. It certainly is, Pastor. And with that rock-solid framework in place, we can now get to the part we've all been waiting for. What did the data actually tell us? The first set of results, taken after just 6 sessions, painted a very clear and, I have to say, a very surprising picture. And boom, here it is, the first major finding. After just 6 sessions, we're only 3 weeks into this trial. The groups that received actual FSM therapy showed a powerful and distinct advantage. They reported a significant drop in their physical, somatic symptoms, so less pain, less fatigue, and just as important, they reported a significant reduction in their negative emotions. Now, the group that only got relaxation therapy, they saw some effect, sure, but it was a much less pronounced change at this early stage. The FSM intervention was clearly working, and man, it was working fast. The orchestra was already starting to sound a whole lot better. This bar chart right here, showing the somatic symptom scores, just makes it crystal clear. Just look at that difference. The FSM group, EG2, has the lowest score by far, meaning they had the fewest physical symptoms. The relaxation-only group is higher, and the placebo group is the highest of all. The really crucial point here is that the difference between the FSM group and the relaxation group was statistically significant. This isn't just some minor trend. It is a clear, undeniable signal that FSM was providing relief from the physical burden of stress much more rapidly than a proven technique like relaxation. I mean, to see a gap that wide at just the halfway point, that's truly remarkable. It's like FSM was a shortcut to feeling better. Those initial results are indeed impressive, Beauchamp, and the speed of the effect is absolutely noteworthy. But that's only half the story. Good science requires us to look at the complete picture. So what happened when the trial ran its full course of 12 sessions? Did that early advantage for FSM hold up, or did the picture get a little more complex? This is where we really have to dig into the difference between a treatment that works fast and one that has lasting power. Okay, but let's just hammer home that key takeaway from the first half. And these are the researchers' own words. They state explicitly that FSM was more effective than relaxation after 6 sessions at reducing those physical somatic symptoms. This confirms exactly what we saw on the chart. For someone who is suffering from chronic pain or fatigue because of stress, that rapid effect could be absolutely life-changing. We're talking about the difference between weeks more of suffering versus finding quick relief. That's huge. But this, Beauchamp, this right here is the crucial nuance that came out in the second half of the study. While FSM was faster out of the gate, relaxation therapy proved to be a powerful tool in its own right, especially over the full 12 sessions. As the researchers note, the relaxation group, the ACG, showed significant and continuous improvements. Their progress didn't just stall, it kept building over time. So that suggests that while FSM might give you that quick hit, relaxation has more of a cumulative effect, slowly but surely chipping away at the symptoms as people continue to practice the technique. So, let's put this all together. It seems we have two effective therapies, but they work on different timelines. FSM seems to deliver a faster, more immediate knockout punch to both the physical symptoms and the negative emotions. It's like a quick-acting pain reliever. That's a fair assessment. Relaxation, on the other hand, is also highly effective, but its benefits seem to accumulate and build more slowly over the full 12 sessions. It's more like a long-term lifestyle adjustment. So the primary advantage of FSM, based on this one pilot trial, really appears to be the speed of relief. And as you said, Beauchamp, for people in significant distress, that speed can be absolutely critical. Getting someone out of a state of acute suffering quickly is a major, major win. So let's get to the final verdict and see what's on the horizon. So, Pastor, after looking at all this, it brings us to the big question: how can FSM therapy truly affect our mental and physical health? Well, based on this evidence, it seems to be working on two fronts at the same time. It's not just masking the pain. The theory suggests it's working way down at the cellular level. It directly targets those physical complaints, maybe by reducing inflammation or influencing cell signaling, while at the same time it's demonstrably dialing down those negative emotional states. It really bridges that gap between the mind and the body, proving they aren't separate things at all, but two sides of the very same coin. I really think this data makes a powerful case that exposure to FSM therapy is a critical tool for healthy recovery and pain reduction. It seems to work faster than relaxation, and it hits both the physical and the emotional parts of stress. It really feels like a potential breakthrough.
Now, Beauchamp, I understand the enthusiasm. I really do. But this is where we have to put on our scientific hats and pump the brakes just a little. As the researchers themselves are quick to point out, there are some important caveats here. First, this was a pilot study. Its main goal was just to see if a bigger, more expensive trial was even worth doing. With only 58 people, the sample size is small, which means the results might not apply to everyone. We also have no idea if these effects last beyond the 12 weeks of the study. And this is a big one. All the data is based on what people said they felt, their self-reports, not on objective biological markers like cortisol levels in their blood. These aren't just minor details. They're crucial for understanding how significant these findings really are. And these limitations, they don't invalidate the results. Not at all. They simply put them in perspective. We can't stand here and definitively say FSM is a cure-all. But what this very promising pilot study does do is provide a strong, compelling reason to conduct that larger, more definitive trial with all those objective measures. It's a really tantalizing glimpse of what might be possible. And despite those caveats, just look at the sheer breadth of improvement after 12 sessions across the board. It wasn't just one thing. Somatic symptoms decreased, perceived stress went down, negative emotions decreased, and on the positive side, satisfaction with life and emotion regulation went up. When you see a pattern like that, it's hard not to connect the dots. You can see how FSM therapy can be linked to pain reduction, improved mood, and, by extension, could absolutely contribute to increased longevity by fighting the chronic diseases tied to stress. So, Pascal, let me just ask you point blank. Can FSM therapy improve our human health?
You're listening to OOTE TV with research by author Paul Bulow. Based on this pilot data, Beauchamp, the answer is a strong and very intriguing yes, it's possible. The study provides really compelling preliminary evidence. What I find particularly interesting is that FSM seemed to have a greater range of effects on emotional functioning compared to relaxation alone, especially in those early stages. It really suggests the mechanism might be more direct, that it's not just a placebo effect.
Exactly, and that gets to the key elements for FSM therapy. It's not just about relaxing, it's about a targeted intervention. The theory is that FSM therapy stimulates a healthy environment for our cells to thrive. You're giving them the right signal, the right note, to repair themselves and function at their best. It's like you're not just calming the orchestra down, you're actually retuning the instruments and teaching the musicians to play better.
So the question on the screen, is the future of medicine electric?
This study makes a pretty compelling case that we absolutely need to find out. It really does feel like we're on the edge of a new paradigm in how we think about health. The idea that we can use frequencies to modulate our bodies. It's not science fiction anymore. It's the subject of serious, controlled scientific investigation. we're moving beyond a purely chemical model of the body and starting to embrace a much more holistic bioelectric perspective.
I agree completely. While we have to wait for the results of larger, longer-term studies with those objective biomarkers, this investigation provides a fascinating and compelling look into a potential future. It validates that bioelectric medicine is a serious and incredibly exciting frontier in human wellness. The journey to understand it has really only just begun, and I, for one, am incredibly eager to see where it leads.
The orchestra of the body is a complex and beautiful thing, and we are only just beginning to learn its secrets.